Huh. Out of all the faces I expected to see, yours wasn't one of them. How you doing, man? It's been so long. What have you been up? You will watch this video from start to finish. You will thoroughly enjoy it and laugh exactly 13 times. At the end, you will like, comment, and subscribe in that exact order and share it with all your friends. The moment I snap my finger, you will forget any of this happened and will follow all instructions as if they were your own will. I'm sure many of you, like me, have a large backlog of games that you've been meaning to play for quite a while now, but for one reason or another, you never really get around to it. Well, I finally did. I mean, I only played one game, but I swear I'll get to the others eventually. Anyways, let's talk about the game I played this past week. I honestly don't remember when or why I bought this game, but if I had to guess, I was probably sold by the graphics and the fact that it's a point-and-click adventure game. I love point-and-click adventure game. In fact, I would even say top 7 best gaming genres? In my book, it even sits above hentai puzzle games, so you know it's hot shit. If a point-and-click thriller sci-fi adventure game about a homeless man sounds good to you, then I highly urge you play this game. Fair warning though, if you plan on both playing the game and watching the video, this is a story-based game. As much as I will try to navigate around spoilers, I'm bound to mention at least some important parts of the game. So if you do want to play this blind, which is the way I would recommend playing it, pause this video, play the game, and then come back to finish watching this video. You better fucking come back or I'll find you. You play as Mick Carter, a bum. I should probably use a more PC term, shouldn't I? A man who is currently experiencing homelessness. Man, that's fucking lame. Seemingly, you've been on the run from something for quite a while now, but begrudgingly you decide to come back to your hometown to attend your recently deceased mother's funeral. You wake up, neck stiff, after a long bumpy ride.
This must be me. Damn. Shouldn't have told Annie I'd come. Don't know how she tracked down my number. My strong, big sister. Crying into the phone. Ah, well.
You can really judge the quality of a game by their commitment to good sound, and this game really starts off strong, with Mick's beautiful, husky, pain-driven voice, which by the way sounds a lot like Sea Dog VA if you were Australian. Is it just me? And that gorgeous, haunting, atmospheric music. Ugh. Sorry, I'm a pet, an audiophile. So you and this other very sane, housing-challenged individual open the door to be met by some very nice policemen. Oh, don't worry about that. That's just how they show affection. Having gone through such a traumatic experience, you begin pursuing the main goal of the game. Finding a place to charge your phone, that is.
At least my phone's not busted.
What better way to drown out your sorrows than with unchecked, short-form content consumption? Luckily, there's a somewhat intact car right near where you landed after jumping off the train. So if you can get it to start up, you got a place to charge your phone. Problem solved. This game's fucking easy. Now, I'm someone known as a car expert by many, and I can tell you, as long as you got plenty of wiper fluid in that thing, you should be golden.
Let's see what the damage is. A little low on wiper fluid.
Ooh. Nah, you're fucked, man. After searching around for solutions and talking to some peeps, you learn about something weird that's been going on in the city recently. You talk to this young, low-key bitch of a reporter who I guess thinks all unhoused folks are all like, I don't know, Neanderthals or something who just throw rocks all day and eat dirt.
Wait, you have a phone?
Yeah? Guess you think just because I don't have a place to stay, I don't have a phone.
Well, I don't...
Everyone has a phone, lady.
She mentions that apparently much of the homeless populace have recently been going missing, and those who haven't have seemingly began to just lose their marbles, talking about being captured by some aliens, which they call the Malinji. But I know that this is all just the game throwing a red herring at me, so I send her to go bother somebody else. I'm not interested in solving some stupid mystery. I have a more important task at hand. I have a phone to charge, lady. When you exit the underpass, you find that Bill has gone missing. This is Bill, by the way. Quite an unfortunate name for a currency-less individual, if you ask me. But more importantly, the car keys and my charger are missing. Which, how convenient is that? Right as I was about to complete the main objective of the game, suddenly these components just magically disappear. I've been noticing games doing this more and more recently, where they use these disgusting manipulation tactics to just draw you in and keep you more engaged with the story in the game so you play longer or whatever. It's stupid, it's dumb, and I don't like it. On the right, you suddenly hear the sound of a woman in distress. But it's okay, because when you make it there, you see that the reporter lady is actually just playing a fun little game with this guy in tactical gear that me and my uncle personally used to call Don't Tell Mommy and Daddy.
What's going on?
I don't know, man, but geez, they look like SAS or something.
Jesus, they look like SAS or something.
That's what I'm saying!
You look kind of schizophrenic.
That's kind of the point. It's supposed to be funny. It seems that Mick is also in on this game of Don't Tell Mommy and Daddy as some random dude sneaks up right behind him. That was my uncle's favorite move. But it's okay because they were actually just planning a surprise pool party for you. Yippee! And they even invited all his friends. You guys! Oh my god. Wow. You really didn't have to. This is where the real meat of the game starts. You discover upon drowning that you can no longer die. Or, I mean, you can die, but every single time you do, you're transported back a couple of moments before your untimely demise. Which, can I say, I absolutely love when games do that. When they not only find a way to explain the discrepancy of how the player is dying and coming back to life, but they even turn it into an entire main game mechanic. There are several sequences in this game where you're on the verge of death, and if you don't choose the exact correct string of choices, you die. But in your death, you learn what not to do, and next time around, you're better informed on what you should do instead. Take this sequence, for example, when you have an encounter with what you assume to be a Jumanji. The 1995 version with Robin Williams, not the 2017 reboot with half rock, half man, all freak. Yes, that was a reference within my reference. If you got a problem with that, you can bite me. At first I just try to face it head on with a knife, which doesn't really turn out too well. I then try to break the vines which are attached to these wooden beams, which causes them to sort of crumble a little bit and create this pseudo wall, which allows me to continue digging at the brick wall without this creature shoving its sharp appendages up my bunghole. However, it just breaks those beams and causes the roof to cave in.
The roof's coming down!
Death after death, I learned that what you're supposed to do is, first of all, you light a fire on this hook. That casts a shadow. Within that shadow, there's a recess that you hide in as you wait for the little cunt to pass by. Once the little cunt passes by, you go to the other side, you cut the vine, and...
Open the door!
And all that I learned through trial and error, which is very simple but very powerful game design. Anyways, as you resurface from your involuntary swimming lessons, you find that everybody is missing and that you're nearing a condition that some medical professionals call dying from being cold as heck.
Christ, it's cold.
As it's the middle of winter and you're soaked from head to toe. In a desperate attempt to not become a human popsicle, you search for a way to warm yourself up. However, in your search, you find something, as the kids would say, not very skibbity.
I roll the body off me and stare down at my old friend.
No.
Bill?
Or as he would say, no.
Australians only.
You spot that there is something stashed within the lining of Bill's shirt. So naturally, you take out your knife and tear through it, only to find a cassette tape stashed in there. Strange. You know, it's kind of funny, because this whole scene would be so hard to explain if some, cops showed up or something.
Got it.
Fuck. By now you may start thinking that this game is actually about more than just charging your phone, which you'd be correct to think that. I lied. The game is actually about stealing from the less fortunate, of course.
Coins clink into the old hat.
Yeah, boy.
Take the few coins.
I'm playing as a person who isn't housed, so really, if you think about it, it's fair game. I will now be delving into much deeper spoiler territory, so if you want to experience the game for yourself, go support the devs, play the game. I think you'll more than likely enjoy it. After your encounter with the Melingian nearly being buried alive in another man's casket, which is fucking terrifying, you wake up in the hospital handcuffed to the bed. Not in the cool, sexy kind of way, though. After a little bit of questioning from the cops and you trying to prove your innocence, you begin to understand that there's some kind of greater conspiracy at hand that the cops are in on. Well, at least the local cops are. Mr. Yellowjacket here seems to be as clueless as you are. One dead cop later, your ex-wife comes to the rescue. The three of you then work together to try to discover what it is that's actually going on here. When I say the three of you, I mean you do like 95% of the work, while your ex-wife maybe helps you a little bit here and there with searching things up on the internet because you couldn't operate a computer to save your life.
I click a button and a box pops up with a keypad. Needs a password. Damn.
You've just opened up the calculator.
And then you have Mr. Detective here, who's about as useful as a rock. Keep in mind, this man was transferred all the way to Australia from... Well, it's never explicitly mentioned, but I get the feeling he's from New York.
Boss.
I can't quite put my finger on why. Call it intuition. So even though he was transferred for this exact very purpose, aside from giving you just like a small handful of leads, he doesn't do anything in the game. But it's okay, guys, because what he lacks in detective, he makes up in being New York. This game does many things well, but I do have a bone to pick with some of the decisions that the devs made, like the fact that they could have implemented a more intricate clue system. There have been a handful of times where I got stuck somewhere in the game and didn't really know how to move forward, and although the game does provide you with clues in the form of somebody saying something relatively vague to help you, it's not enough sometimes. Take for example when I find this one label that's painted over. Mick then says,
Can't make out what's on the label, at least not in this light.
to which I assumed the solution was to go to a better lit place, as clearly this lamppost isn't providing enough light. So I go through every single location, but there was not a single one in which this blind fuck was able to read the label. Well, apparently the solution is to click on the lamppost itself, which makes Mick hold the label up to the light, which, sure, I guess makes sense, but when the protagonist says,
At least not in this light.
call me stupid, but it makes it sound like I need to go elsewhere with better lighting. There was another section right after this one where after a certain interaction with the secretary, a piece of paper holding crucial information drops on the floor. However, you don't actually see that happening, there isn't an animation or something, it just sort of appears the next time that you come to the office. It took me the better part of an hour to even notice this piece of shit paper. And let me tell you, I was ready to do some unholy things to a Tim Tam in retaliation. Both of these problems could be solved relatively easily by either making interactable objects pop out more, or maybe, I don't know, give them a glimmer or something. I do admit that a lot of these troubles that I was having was most likely caused by my own stupidity. But I feel like when you're designing a game, you have to take into account that you will have some players who have 7 rats in place of a brain. There's nothing fun about going through the same location again and again, or re-interacting with every object 50 times, so it stands to reason that adding a more advanced clue system could only benefit the game. Let's be honest, your average player isn't gonna be, endlessly searching for the solution, he will eventually just search up a walkthrough. Not me though, I figured everything out with my massive cranium. Shit's massive, I tell you. So, although making a system like this could be a bit of a time sink for the devs, it will ultimately result in players being more immersed, as every time they get stuck in something and they just give up on figuring it out on their own, they don't have to tab out and search up a walkthrough, they can just find a solution within the game itself. I do want to say that I only got stuck a few small handful of times, and that the majority of the puzzles are actually very creatively designed in a way where when you solve them on your own, you really do just feel like a big smart old boy. So the thing that I think truly captivated me in this game is the mystery of how it is that I keep on dying and coming back to life. At some point in the game, you discover a term called quantum cognition. I'll just let the smart science lady explain.
It was a theory dating back to the 60s. The brain has an information density far higher than classical physics can explain.
So it somehow learned how to do quantum mechanics?
Well, natural selection takes care of that. The brain doesn't know how electrical impulses work either. It just evolved to use them.
Same for quantum cognition.
The theory's fallen out of fashion recently. Otherwise, I'd be able to tell you more.
For your own sake, I hope you got that, because that will be on the test. Now, for quite a while, the way that I thought this whole quantum cognition thing worked was when you're like in a stressful situation, your brain is able to simultaneously simulate all the different paths you can take in order to find the most optimal path, or at least the path in which you, as they say, don't eat shit and die. And therefore, when you're dying, you're not actually dying, it's just you seeing one of those possible paths that your brain is simulating, which I think is a fucking fantastic concept. I'm a huge air conditioner of these like tangible sci-fi concepts that feel at least like somewhat grounded and realistic, as opposed to just making up some utter nonsense that relies on like the shroud of complex science, which, let's be honest, at that point, it might as well be magic with how intangible it is. But unfortunately, later on in the game, you do discover that what is actually happening is literal time travel, which the game tries to explain away with a slurry of buzzwords like quantum entanglement, particle collider, fucking testicular contortion, but who knows? Maybe if you truly understand these subjects on a deeper level, this could make sense. But to me, a layman, it just feels like they're using all these complex science terms and words to just justify what is essentially just magic. Which, don't get me wrong, I don't think it's a particularly bad thing. It's just that I was kind of disappointed because I was expecting something a lot more unique and nuanced than it actually was. I wasn't joking about the test, by the way. I don't want to end this on a negative note, as I really do think it's a stellar game that everybody should give a try. Even if you've watched this video this far, I think that I steered past a lot of aspects of the game that you should still be able to appreciate and experience most of the game firsthand. As much as I feel disappointed by some aspects of the story, I do understand that writing a good story isn't particularly easy, especially when you're dealing with like really complex science subjects, so it's okay to sometimes take certain shortcuts. And there's actually this sequence towards the end of the game that I thought was so fucking cool, which wouldn't really work if it wasn't a time travel thing, so I really do think that there are benefits to them having written it this way. Does that make sense grammatically? Let's pretend it does. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Thank you, PowerHoof, for making this beautiful, wonderful game. And thank you for watching this video in its entirety. Out of your own volition, may I add.